Kentucky, September the 6th, 1947.
And what were you doing before your service?
I was going to college full-time and working part-time. And I started working full-time and went to college part-time until such time as I was just working full-time. I dropped out of school and I was selling ladies' shoes.
Were you the only one of your family that went to the military?
My father served during World War II, and that's the only other family member that I'm aware of.
How did you enter? Were you enlisted or were you part of the draft?
The draft was still in place at the time. It was a lottery at that time. My lottery number was low enough that I was going to be drafted eventually. I chose to join the Air Force voluntarily.
How well did you adapt, and how long did it take you to adapt to the military life, like the food, the social life, the barracks?
I was raised in a fairly stringent environment. My father was a disciplinarian, so I took orders well. I followed well. Being in the Air Force, when I joined, I weighed 145 pounds, sopping wet, was 6 foot tall. 6 weeks later, when I graduated out of basic training, I weighed 186 pounds and was ripped. So it was good for me. The chow was great. We were starved to death all the time, so we ate good, exercised hard, learned quite a bit. It was quite an experience. In basic training, they basically completely strip you of your identity. They shave everybody's heads shaved clean, to wear the same exact clothes. You have people yelling at you all of the time. So they completely broke you down as an individual and then built you back up as a part of a bigger entity.
Wartime service. What war did you serve in?
I served during the Vietnam War. Places I was stationed while I was in the service was, of course, Lackland Air Force Base for basic training. I went to Keesler Air Force Base in Biloxi, Mississippi for 9 months of electronics training and communications. From there, I spent a year out in Colorado Springs, NORAD headquarters in Cheyenne Mountain. A year after that, I was deployed to Okinawa, where I spent 30 months. In Okinawa. I left, came back to California for a year, right outside of San Francisco, and then came back to Louisville, Kentucky as a recruiter for 5 years before I got out of the service.
What were some of the life lessons that you learned during the military service?
Well, I learned that eventually, as I was there in the service for a while, I became a leader, became supervisor of people. I found out that you have to learn how to be a good follower before you can be a great leader. While I was in Okinawa, a carton of cigarettes cost $1.05 a carton. Beer was $2.40 a case, so it was 10 cents a piece. 40 ounces are quarts, basically, of name brand Smirnoff vodka, and Chivas Regal Scotch was 90 cents a bottle.
Are you still connected with the friends you made in the Army? Are you still friends with some of those?
I am still friends with some of those, and we talk on a regular basis. It's so much easier now with cell phones in your pockets and text message and things like that. But these are people that I grew up with when I was 21, 22, 23 years old. We're stuck on an island in the middle of nowhere, and all we have is ourselves. My first son was born while I was in Okinawa. My wife was back in Louisville, Kentucky. It was 3 days before I found out my son was born. That's how fast communications was back in those days.